call the meeting to order. If everybody could please rise for the Lord's Prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Ramirez.
Here.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Donahue. Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Mayor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armand Mercia.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Okay. We had on the agenda listed a special presentation to some young people who ran a successful fundraiser for Lowell General Hospital Team Walk for Cancer. They could not make it this evening, and they're going to be postponed to a date, I think, 2 nights from now. But for tonight, in place of that, we're going to start with the final presentation of the Winterfest Awards. We have the awards this evening for the snowman making competition. As you remember, when we gave out the original Winterfest Awards, it was school vacation weekend, so we're not able to get in touch with all the winners. So we have them here tonight, and I'd like to recognize Special Events Coordinator Andy St. Onge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank you, City Manager Bernie Lynch, and the Lowell City Councils for once again giving us the opportunity to acknowledge and congratulate the award winners of this event. As the Mayor just mentioned, that they were on vacation when we gave out the original awards. So I'd like to take the time tonight to acknowledge them. They work hard. You should see them here during the day, building the snowman. You should see the high school competition the day of. I can't say enough about the 2 facilitators of this event, which are Sue Smith and Jim DeProfio. Sue's a facilitator with the high school. Jim is, I believe, the headmaster of the freshman academy over at the school. They do a fantastic job with these kids. And at this time, I'd like to turn the floor over to Sue Smith, please. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm really pleased to be here, as always, another year with Winterfest. I'm so glad that it was able to continue this year. I want to especially thank the Winterfest Committee, all the folks at City Hall who spend lots and lots of hours, many on their own time, to arrange this event for everybody in the city, but especially for the young folks. They had a really good experience this year, as always, and a very special thanks to the Public Works Department, who provided snow when there was no snow. It's just, Lowell is, let's give them a hand. Hope they're watching. It's like a magic moment in Lowell, because people ask me all the time, well, what's going to happen? There is no snow. I said, there'll be snow, I promise you. And they kind of doubt that, but then when they see the piles and then they see the snowmen and the track, they realize that when something's going to happen in Lowell, it does, and we all make sure of it. So we do appreciate this opportunity. I'd like to introduce the students from the Stocklosa Middle School, who were the first prize winners this year in the snowman competition. Give them a hand. The staff members from the school who helped out were Carol Govier, Linda Almeida, and Linda Kamali. I'd like to invite the students from the Stocklosa who are here from the snowman competition to come up. First place.
Thank you for the opportunity of coming tonight. This is great. The kids love this. She talks about snow. It's more like ice. They worked really, really hard chipping away at that ice. And they made some beautiful sculptures. Tonight we have 3 students with us. They are Madeline Yang, Judy Ramsey, Chindasa, and Brian Masawa.
the snow that arrives in the Public Works trucks is not quite the same as the regular snow that falls from the heavens. It's a little bit icy, so they chipped away, and Public Works people had plenty of shovels and spades and everything, and water to water down the ice to make it a little more pliable for the to making the snowman. It was difficult, but they stuck with it, and they did a great job. Sharing the first prize for in the judging category is the bridge program. Staff members who assisted the students were Lisa Marion and Gail Blockley, and Ellen Spiegel, the director of the bridge program, is here this evening. Would the bridge students come up, please? Sure. Second place, but there's judging and then there's the winners of the pennies. So they're kind of both first place. Kevin? Do you want to introduce everybody? Speak.
Hello, my name is Kevin. This is Angelo, Mikey, Ms. Blockley, Ms. Spiegel, Ms. Marion. And yep, just thank you for the awards, because we didn't have a lot of time, but we tried our best on what we did, and we liked what we did. We thought it was pretty nice, and thank you guys for voting, for judging it and thinking it was nice. And yeah, we all thank you guys. Proud.
I'd just like to clarify on the prizes. What happens is there are jugs of pennies out in front of the each snowman, and the public votes. So that's really the first prize, is the school that gets the most pennies in the voting. And also we had judges voting, so that was the second place for the bridge program. Third place, honorable mention, Cardinal O'Connell Alternative School. The staff members who helped were Pam Comer and Dave Kamali. Pam Comer's here this evening, and would the Cardinal O'Connell kids please come up? Go ahead. And the director of the program, Catherine Keene, is here this evening, too. You want to introduce the kids? How they want to do it?
From the Cardinal O'Connell School, and worked hard on the thing, and I don't know. I don't know. You do it.
Introduce your teammates.
Anthony's a little microphone shy. You should hear him at school. He never is ever quiet. This is right here is Tyler Lavoie. This is Robert Lowe. We have Anthony Hunt with us, John Mello, and Dan Daly, and these guys worked phenomenally hard. The snow was not snow, as everyone has said. It was ice. You couldn't really form it into something. You had to chip away and create something. Fortunately, we had a lot of props that we added to it. I think that helped us out. And it was really cold. They worked hard, and then they enjoyed pizza afterwards, and it was a wonderful, fun experience, so I was glad to be part of it with them. Thank you.
For the second year now, we've had the high school snowshoe relay race competition. It was fun again this year. Great competition. We had the Lowell High School and Greater Lowell Technical School. First place and third place were students from the Greater Lowell Technical School. Elizabeth Bennett is here to introduce them.
We had great fun beating Lowell High this year. It was it was a tough competition, but we were proud to accept awards tonight. We have Sarah Knockowitz, German Picos, and Debbie Bernardo.
Hi, thank you guys. It was a great honor, and we had a lot of fun. And we had 3 teams compete, and our first place team was Team Dominance. It was an all-boys team. And then we had a third place team, which was, the Super Troopers? And an all-girls team, the Lady Griffins. And yeah, looking forward again next year.
Great.
The second place teams from Lowell High School, could I ask Jim DeProfio to come up? He's the director of the Freshman Academy. He's been the coach and the organizer and the gatherer of students for this activity both years, and it's been great to be working with him.
I'm Tiago Silva. Shane Walsh.
Ryan O'Shaughnessy.
Christina Braga. Aaron Gallagher.
Jay Spinelli.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for our invitation this evening. We enjoyed participating. Thank you, Andy. We had a great time. Liz and Greater Lowell, congratulations. You guys did a great job. It was a lot of fun and a great chance to represent Lowell High School at an excellent downtown activity. So thank you very much, and hope to see you again next year.
Thank you.
Again, I'd like to thank everybody in the city and in the school department who helped out with this. And I can't possibly leave out Mr. St. Ange, who was right with us all the way, responsive when we call, and also the city manager's office, who took care of hundreds of kids that day with pizza and soda and served them just like a real restaurant, even in these chambers here. So the kids got to sit at these desks and see everything here. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for giving us the floor.
Okay, and just on behalf of the councilors who may want to add some things of their own, I want to thank all of you for participating, and just so the public doesn't think anyone was shortchanged, the snowshoe awards were given out the day of the competition, as I understand it. So anybody who missed their award, just see Mr. St. Ange. He'll make sure that you get one. And thanks again to everybody for participating. Okay, move on to the next item on the agenda, which is acceptance of the minutes of the February 27th meeting.
Yes,
for
so
acceptance.
moved. So
Motion
moved.
to accept the minutes by Councilor Rita Mercier, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor of accepting the minutes say aye. Any opposed? The minutes are accepted. The next item, we have a request to consider subcommittee reports out of order because there are a number of interested parties who just participated in the subcommittee meeting. So motion by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Milanazzo to consider this matter out of order. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The rules are suspended for the purpose of considering subcommittee reports out of order. So we will now take up subcommittee reports, and we'll go to Councilor Milanazzo for a report on the Rules Subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate my colleagues taking this out of order this evening. The Rules Subcommittee did meet at 5:30. Councilor Rita Mercier and Councilor Armin Mercier and myself, along with Councilor Kevin Broderick, Mayor Martin was here, Councilor Caulfield was here as well. And I'd like to begin by thanking City Solicitor O'Connor for the enormous amount of work that she did on putting together a legal opinion regarding the issue. And the issue before us this evening was the issue of prayer. As we all know, we've been dealing with discussing the Lord's Prayer issue for the last few months, working with the Greater Lowell Interfaith Leadership Alliance that brought the issue forward about 6 months ago. And I have to say that the opinion from the solicitor was thoroughly researched. In fact, I believe she indicated to me that there was over 1,000 pages of reading and research that went into this opinion. We do have a copy of the opinion this evening, and suffice it to say, we've been now given three options as a result of the research done by the solicitor's office. And let me just start by saying that the City Council Subcommittee did vote to accept the solicitor's, to recommend to the full council to accept the solicitor's recommendation. At the same time, to look at one of those recommendations. If you have the opinion in front of you, I would ask you to go to page 7, where it talks about the permissible options before the council would be adopting a non-sectarian prayer, engaging in a moment of silence, or choosing to not engage in practice of legislative prayer at all. The wishes of the City Council Subcommittee which will be conveyed through this report, is to ask that the group from GLELA, along with the City Council Subcommittee, work on preparing a non-sectarian prayer to bring back to the City Council. In the meantime, we would continue the practice of saying the Lord's Prayer at the beginning of meetings until we come back to the council with a non-sectarian prayer. Again, as defined in the report from the Solicitor's Office, a permissible prayer typically involves non-sectarian requests for wisdom, as well as calls for divine blessing on the work of the legislative body. So I think that, in essence, is the path that we're going to be striving toward, and working with GLELA and members of the subcommittee to get us there. We also received this afternoon a correspondence from the Americans United for the Separation of Church and State, and we did have a representative from the Massachusetts chapter of that group who's actually with us this evening, and I want to acknowledge his presence as well, who did offer an opinion as to what they feel the City Council should or could do in this regard. And I believe that we appear to be on the same page. In fact, when he spoke, he indicated that he agreed 99% with the solicitor's opinion this evening. So, again, by way of a report to the full council, the subcommittee did vote to accept the city solicitor's opinion. However, we'd like to continue to work with GLELA to come up with a non-sectarian prayer that we would bring back to the full council. We didn't put a timeline on it, but that representatives from GLELA indicated that they meet monthly, so that they would at least need 2 or 3 months to bring something back to the rules subcommittee. So that really, I guess, is a report of progress, and I'm sure that my colleagues on the subcommittee would like to offer their thoughts as to the proceedings as well. But overall, I think we took a situation that no one from the standpoint of tradition and change really was looking forward to, but hopefully as a result of this, as we had talked about Lowell changing and becoming more diverse over the last few years, that change by using a non-sectarian prayer will really continue to move this community forward. So that, again, is a report of progress.
Thank you, Councilor. Any further comments? Councilor Rita Mercier?
Times when we received a letter in the spring to listen to the concerns of certain residents and people in the city, and to have not responded or acknowledged them in any way would not be something that I would be in favor of, because everybody is important, and whatever their concern is, I think it's incumbent upon us to sit down and talk it out, and we did, and you so aptly named a ad hoc rules subcommittee, and this issue went before them, and we had many ideas bantered back and forth. As you can see, we referred our questions and everything to the city solicitor, Christine O'Connor, who did a tremendous job. It seems like every time we close the door on one recommendation or one request, we come back with more and more. The poor doll is exhausted after we're getting her busy. But we looked at 3 options, which were current practices, which was the Our Father, which is a sectarian Christian prayer, and the 5 major religious prayers which they brought out would create a situation whereby we would be more or less endorsing 5 major religions. We would be advancing them above all others. And the compromise, which we had the Our Father in the beginning, and one of those major religious prayers in the end, we would be elevating the Our Father in the beginning as the best, and secondly, those in the end of the meeting. So we had different options to choose from, as the chairman said, a moment of silence, or go to a non-sectarian prayer, or to dissolve everything altogether. I'm not in favor of that. We did ask for an opinion from the city solicitor, and it troubles me tremendously to have to say that the Our Father is my prayer. It's my prayer. But to say that my prayer is better than everybody else's is really not what's before us. It's not acceptable. We inherited this practice. We did not create this practice, but we did have an option to study it, send it to the solicitor, and have her come back with a recommendation. Although the decision that was reached is probably something that I'm not in favor of, it remains to be seen that I have to obey the law. I have to be fair. I'm sitting here in this seat not to tell you that it's going to be my way and this is my belief. I have to be here with an open mind and listen and weigh all the issues, get an opinion that I think will suit everyone. So it breaks my heart to have made the motion to decide on which option we would go, and the option that we chose on the subcommittee was to choose the non-sectarian version of a universal prayer that would be better than a moment of silence, that would obliterate any prayer whatsoever, but would be appealing and fair to everyone. I think this is the way that the subcommittee was willing to go. We examined the law. We were made aware of the clarification. And I know in the Senate and the Congress and the state rep, they do a prayer, but it's a legislative prayer, which means that it's a non-sectarian prayer. So although something was established for 40 years and it was a tradition, I really don't want people to point the finger and say, oh, you eliminated it. No, I corrected a situation that I felt was fair to everyone. And so that's the opinion of the solicitor, and I'm following through with that.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further discussion? Okay. So motion to accept the report of the subcommittee as a report of progress by Counselor Rita Mercier, second by Counselor Milanazzo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. The subcommittee will continue to work with the Greater Lowell Interfaith Alliance on developing a non-sectarian prayer, and I assume that'll come back at some point in the form of a rules amendment.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Okay. Counselor Donahue.
I just had a question. Is the law department going to look at that before it comes back so that
the law department is going to work in unity with GLULA
Okay.
to establish something that is appealing to everyone.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that
That's right.
before it comes before us again, the law department has cleared that.
Yes.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Counselor Armin
I
Mercy.
just want to reiterate again what I said at the subcommittee meeting. There was no doubt in my mind when this first came before the city council, it was a slippery slope that ultimately would probably cause some very serious concerns on the part of the councils and even the organization that wanted us to take a look at this. I think the fact that it's been deemed unconstitutional is something we can't ignore. However, I want to reiterate that until such time as a non-sectarian prayer comes before us for consideration, we will continue to say the Lord's Prayer. I think it's important to reiterate that to people who are watching this evening. We will continue that prayer. I'm sure that we're not going to run into any legal ramifications because we are pursuing a remedy that hopefully will be acceptable to everyone.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, that brings us, I think, to the city manager's portion of the agenda. There are communications from the manager in response to various council motions and requests. Any questions or comments concerning any of those matters? Okay. Okay, motion to accept the reports from the manager by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor of accepting the communication say aye. Any opposed? The communications are accepted. Next item is a communication from the city manager requesting approval of out-of-state travel. Dear Mayor, members of the council, Division of Planning Development is requesting council approval for Linda King, Community Development Specialist, to be allowed to travel Tuesday, March 6th through Thursday, March 8th to Washington to send United States Interagency Council of Homelessness Conference for Homelessness in America. As you know, the federal government has made it a top priority to end chronic homelessness within 10 years. The city has recently announced its intention to comply with this initiative by developing a 10-year plan to end homelessness in Lowell. Total cost are $980.39. Sincerely, Matthew Coggins, Acting City Manager. Motion to approve by Councilor Caulfield, second by Councilor Broderick. Do you have a question, Councilor?
Yes, if I could.
Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you. I just was wondering if this was going to be paid for out of a federal grant, or is this city money?
This will be paid for from CDBG funds.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Roll call.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the request is approved. Next item is an appropriation transfer in order to meet fixed charges and current expenses of the City of Lowell for the year 2006-2007. Ordered by the City Council of Lowell as follows, that the amount of $13,600 is hereby appropriated to Treasurer Professional Services, and in order to provide for such appropriation, the above amount is transferred for said purpose from Treasurer's salaries and wages temporary to provide funds to complete bank reconciliations. Order recommended, introduced by J. Matthew Coggins, Acting City Manager. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the manager. Mr. Manager, can you give us an explanation what this transfer is for? I know it's within the budget, and you did give us a brief explanation as to what's taking place in the Treasurer's office. We all know that they're short-staffed, and you know, there are some serious concerns with your administration and the Department of Revenue to start getting on top of a lot of the things that have been backlogged. Can you tell us what this will do?
The
Manager.
At our last council meeting, I did run through a number of the issues that we were trying to address within the Treasurer's office. One of the major issues that we have is the reconciliation of cash, which hasn't been done for a couple of years now, I believe. So we also have a number of other issues related to some of the software implementation that we're looking to put in place so that the treasurer functions can be done more efficiently and more effectively. So what we did is we went out and we sought professional services from a variety of sources and came up with this. I think probably the most appropriate thing at this point in time is to have the Chief Financial Officer describe in greater detail the specific work items that we will have in place.
This is actually part of a more comprehensive plan to shore up the operations in the Treasurer's office and get help. One of our goals is to make sure that the staffing, the internal staffing, has all the tools they need to keep current with the workload. But in order to keep current, they have to get current. So we're hiring an outside help to actually go back and do all the work that needs to be done for the last 18 months. We've actually worked with the Treasurer's staff and worked with the union to make sure that this is not a problem. And to reiterate that this is not a permanent solution for the future. This is to address problems that have occurred in the past.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Manager. So is this temporary agency going to come on and look at just the three major accounts? Because I do know I've been in touch with Department of Revenue. I've had a subsequent meeting with them, and they're just looking at progress as to what has taken place in the city. And they are concerned that there are over 60 bank accounts that most of them are dormant. However, you know, it's a concern. Are we going to close them out? There are essentially three main accounts that the city does business out of. And those are primarily the accounts that you're looking to bring on someone to reconcile for the last 18 to 24 months, right?
Right. This does address those three main accounts. The other accounts are reconciled. Okay. That's not a problem. What is a problem is the number of accounts, and we are working to reduce the number of accounts and to reduce the number of banking relationships that we have to manage.
What about the, I think she said Chapter 221 accounts that we have, money that is owed that goes back, I believe she said, some back as far as 10, 15 years of outstanding checks, money owed that really should be cleared off the books. Is this temporary help going to try to solve that problem as well?
This will address that. There are many old outstanding checks. What we don't know is have those checks been voided and reissued? And if they have been voided and reissued, really that is money that comes back to the city. If they're in fact legitimately outstanding, we have to go through the process of notification of the payee and go through that process to make sure that they can be contacted and replacement checks be written.
I mean, but that's something that really should be cleared off the balance sheet. That's, affecting our whole financial picture. Is it not?
Actually, this going through this process will improve our financial situation. Yes.
Okay. I think that answers all of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield had his hand up first. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly to the manager and to Tom. You mentioned the word software. We're not going to implement a new computerized system in the Treasurer's office. We're going to use the present Munis system, but just add some.
Exactly, Councilor.
Okay.
I think we spoke about that last week as well. It is just the Munis system. The Munis system has a number of different, what they refer to as modules, different parts of it that you can implement, buy into and implement. This is still all the Munis system, though, that we will be utilizing.
And you certainly notify the council if you're going to implement a whole new system there before.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that this transfer will help the Treasurer's office to some degree, but this help is only a drop in the bucket to what needs to be done in that office. This is one of the most important links to finances in the city, and it's in dire need of fixing. The big account statements, as you mentioned, they're 2 years behind in reconciliation. That's a known fact. At this rate, the workload will never catch up without sufficient help in the Treasurer's office. The workload goes back to February 12th. They're caught up till February 12th. They're 22 days behind and growing because due to the lack of help, we are putting workers at the window to collect money instead of doing their own work. I know that. I went there today to pay my water trash bill, and last week I was there on a Friday. There was only 2 people. This is an office that had 9 people to begin with many years ago, and as people retired or left or whatever, they never filled the slots. We have 3 people doing the job and 9 people there. Checks are not cleared for our customers because they haven't been entered into the system yet. That to me is unacceptable. I was there today. I saw a stack of mail like you wouldn't believe. I said, "What's that?" They said, "Mail. We haven't gotten to open it yet. We've been working left and right to collect excise taxes that were late, water bills." I don't know how long this is going to keep up. The personnel in the Treasurer's office have asked repeatedly on numerous occasions that they'll be willing to work overtime just to catch up on it. If their job duties takes a day to do and they're at a window collecting money, that's just multiplying. I don't know if we could have extended hours for them to work overtime to get this done. And you talk about software. They can have all the software they want. Who's going to operate it? Who's going to do it? Mr. Manager, you have a serious problem down there in the Treasurer's office. And I know that when you're overworked and stressed, you're snappy. And I don't want disaccord down there. I know you're trying, this is a start, but there's more to it that has to be done here.
Mr. Manager.
Well, Council, I think I think it was just last week that I provided you with a briefing of the various action items that we're taking. The issue with the software is one that allows outside, in particular, is allowing the outside departments to transfer information electronically, thereby taking part of the workload away from the Treasurer's staff that they have to then input that information in. So it frees up their time to catch up on their work. There is a staffing issue down there, and I think that that's something that I haven't gone back to see if this was addressed in last year's budget discussions, but we haven't reduced the staff there. We're operating with the same number of positions that we had that were approved in the budget. So, and I'm not sure how long this problem has been going on, but certainly in the last couple of months, we've been taking a number of steps to try to address this issue. And in particular, we're looking at, and I think I did say that we're looking at the possibility of providing some overtime. But, if we're going to we have to find the long-term solution to this problem. And that's putting the necessary bodies in place and putting the necessary systems in place. And very frankly, I think that that's where we're really lacking, is in terms of the systems that need to be put there, whether it be software or just management systems, to make sure that this work is done. I think that the staff down there is doing an exemplary job given the resources that they have, and I think we're working very cooperatively to try to address these issues. But I couldn't agree with you more too, that it is perhaps the most important financial function that we have, and we recognize that, and we're taking the necessary steps to solve that problem. But I agree with you. I mean, the fact that this has been going on for 18 or 24 months is very serious. Yes. And I think when you see the Department of Revenue, Councilor Elliott referenced the Department of Revenue discussions, when you see their report, it's going to have some very serious issues with regards to the Treasurer's Office. And these are things that frankly should have been taken care of a long time ago.
And I'm just asking you, Mr. Manager, to go to the department and talk to them and assure them that you know they're doing a good job and you're doing everything within your power to help this.
I have had an opportunity, Councilor, on a couple of occasions over the last couple of weeks to be down there meeting with them. I know that Mr. Moses has met with them on a regular basis, and we're going to continue to do so. We are going to provide them with the resources to solve this problem.
I like everybody to be happy in these departments, and I know they're not, and it troubles me. That's all.
I agree.
Okay. Councilor Elliott, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to follow up. I'm glad that this is finally get to this point, because it didn't just come about overnight. And I would say this is the third, fourth, maybe in the fifth time that I brought this to the council floor, probably over the past year and a half. And it's been consistently ignored. And we're finally taking some action. But if you speak to representatives from Department of Revenue, there are enough staff. They're not being utilized appropriately in this new module to allow all the parking garages and other entities that submit their receipts to the Treasurer's Office to enter them themselves, as well as consolidate parking. So the problem is not staff, it's the way, some of it is staff, because Mr. Rosengart is now not well. But it's, and Judy Winters has, and rightfully so, complained consistently, certainly to me, well over a year and a half ago, that things are not working. So it is the appropriate time, but putting the module in place, having just the example of the garage, people able to import their own receipts is a huge, is one burden that will come up. It's not going to solve the problem. Bank reconciliation, they cannot possibly catch up with the staff they have. But again, it's not just one issue in getting more bodies. Getting more bodies in there, yes, is part of it. But also merging some of the other departments has been alluded to earlier, where there is staff that can be doing some of these functions, but they're not. And I'm hoping that you're going to get to that, Mr. Manager. But this certainly has been on the plate, and nothing has been done for quite some time. And unfortunately, we got to bring somebody in now to get that backlog, because that's where the issue is. It's reconciling these monthly cash statements.
Well, I agree, Councilor, and I did reference that as well last week. The notion that you just spoke to, that you and I have spoken about in the past, and that is the reallocation of staff resources to that function, so that there's more cross training and there's an ability to do the workload. I think that there are enough people, or we're close to having enough people if they're allocated and they're utilized in the proper way, and that's what we're trying to do. I mean, one of the horror stories that I spoke of last week that apparently has been going on for years is the phone system. That they didn't have a phone system that was able to the staff to utilize effectively, where they'd have to take someone, put them on hold, and go over to another desk to use another phone. I mean, that's such an archaic system in this day and age, that they would have something like that in place, and what a waste of staff time. So it's all these little things, and I think that the work that we have now coming out of the auditor's office is a tremendous asset to us in getting the treasurer's operation moving in the right direction as well.
Councilor Elliott.
Just briefly, and you're probably aware of this, but the Department of Revenue had mentioned setting off a separate private area or isolated area, if you will. Are we working on that? So
Yes.
some staff can just...
We are doing that, Councilor. What we're doing is we're taking some of the staff that's in that office right now and moving them up into the law office.
Just so they can do work.
To set up a workspace.
Right.
And more appropriate space for the treasurer to actually. Right now, the treasurer is in a hallway.
Right.
In that office, and again, that's something that we were shocked when we saw that, and the Department of Revenue was equally shocked that was the way the treasurer's workspace was. So that's being we're reallocating, we're moving some staff to the law office and freeing up some area that will be work area for the treasurer's staff to do their work.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Councilor Broderick.
Thank you. I appreciate the fact that you inherited this mess and appreciate everybody's effort to try and get this on target. But Councilor Elliott reminded me that about DOR. Have you heard anything from them relative to when they expect to be back with their recommendations or reports?
We're expecting sometime in March. I actually have a call in to them that I made late this afternoon. Yeah, actually, to see.
We're in March now. You missed a few days.
That's right. So, but I'm hoping they will be within the next 3 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Roll call on the transfer.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the transfer is approved. Next item is a communication from the manager accepting the resignation of James Cormier from the Council on Aging. Dear Mr. Cormier, this letter acknowledges receipt of your letter of February 12, 2007, which you resign as a board member of the Council of Aging of the City of Lowell. Your resignation is hereby accepted. I am filing your resignation and this acceptance thereof this date with the city clerk as required by law, and also forwarding copies as a communication to the City Council. The City of Lowell appreciates your years of service, and on its behalf I extend thanks. Very truly yours, J. Matthew Coggins, Acting City Manager. Motion to accept the communication by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Ramirez. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The communication is accepted. Next item is a vote on a license agreement. A vote authorizing the city manager to execute a license agreement between the City of Lowell and Jaquez Inc., doing business as Charo's Bakery, for use of a portion of city property located on Palmer Street, adjacent to the premises at 160 Merrimack Street, Lowell, for the purpose of sidewalk seating. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Rita Mercier, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The first full reading is waived. Second reading by title, a vote authorizing the city manager to execute a license agreement between the City of Lowell and Jaquez Inc., doing business as Charo's Bakery, for the use of a portion of city property located on Palmer Street, adjacent to the premises at 160 Merrimack Street, Lowell, for the purpose of sidewalk seating. Any questions? Roll call.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo.
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez.
Yes.
Councilor Broderick.
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield.
Yes.
Councilor Donahue.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Yes.
On subcommittee reports, are there any further subcommittee reports? Okay, hearing none. Councilor Caulfield.
I just want to notify my colleagues that the Cable TV Subcommittee will be convening a meeting Monday, March the 12th at 5 p.m. in the council chambers. It will be televised, and present will be Senator Panagiotakis to discuss with the subcommittee the pending bill in the State House. Also, the subcommittee will also take up the petition by Tom Whitman that was brought forward, I believe, a week ago. Following that subcommittee meeting will be the Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee meeting, which will be taking up Councilor Broderick's motion about the residential signage, and that will happen Monday, March the 12th. The council chambers will be televised. Public is invited to attend.
Thank you, Councilor. Next item, petitions. We have one petition from Patrick O'Connor, 38 Folk Street, Lowell. I wish to address the council regarding Plan E Charter, in particular Section 108. Mr. O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, I put this petition in the effort to find the meaning of Plan E as it refers to the city of Lowell. As you know, some 14 years ago, the people in this city voted to uphold and keep the charter, the Plan E charter in this city. Plan E consists of a number of 20, I think there's 23 sections of law that actually apply to the city of Lowell, and though some of them seem to apply, some of them seem not to apply, or at least are not adhered to by this city or any portions of this government. And I think that the meaning for all of us of each and every one of these charter laws should be put somewhere or available somewhere so everybody can understand them. Now, it's my understanding that according to the law, that a copy of an up-to-date charter should be kept in the city clerk's office and be renewed or readjusted, amended every 10 years. And if I go into the clerk's office, I'm going to get a copy under the Mass law that just explains what the whole charter is. And there seems to be that there's, and if I recall, and I know I recall, I brought something like this up a number of years ago, and Councilor Rita Mercier gave me her copy of the charter, which was the same thing on the Mass General Law. It included everything. I don't know which sections apply, which sections don't apply. And it's obvious to me that some of the council members as well are not too sure of some things. I mean, I recall just recently when the manager first came in here, that there were a few councilors that were upset about appointments and removal because they heard him on the radio, and the manager didn't tell him. He's not required by law to tell you, by the charter, until the next meeting. He can make a removal and tell you at the next council meeting. He doesn't have to tell you ahead of time. And that's just one thing. Just recently, an article in the newspaper that was in the column on the Plan E, it referred to that when a department head, when the manager is absent, that the council shall appoint some department head. That's the charter. They refer to it as an ordinance. It's not an ordinance, it's the law. It's not the manager's job to appoint somebody. It's your job. And it's supposed to be a department head. And there seemed to become some confusion, according to that same article, that somebody didn't know what a division was and what a department was. Now, I recall specifically some number of years ago that the same issue came up, and planning and development was not a division, was a division of the manager's office, and not a department. Now, I don't know if that changed. I'm not sure if that changed. The issue that I brought to you, Section 108, is one thing that just one section of this charter that's kind of always been in my mind, and I wanted to bring it up, and it refers to whether or not city employees can actually give gifts, solicit, contribute to any individual running for council or council candidates or school committee members. And I'd like to know how this part of this section of law, as well as all the other ones, but I'd like to know how this section of law, if it's actually going to be enforced, if it should be enforced. Did it go away? Has it been repealed? I don't know. Now, under the charter, it's the manager's job to enforce all the laws of the Commonwealth and any charter laws and any resolutions and ordinances of the city. That's his job. And I'd like to know how this is going to apply. I'd like to particularly know how this is going to apply to unions. Over the years, we've all heard unions on the teachers' union and coming out in the newspaper during election time endorsing certain candidates. Now, that seems to me that that should be a violation of the law, of the 108. The police and fire have done the same thing. I'm here for informational purposes. I'd like to know how this actually reacts to this council, how it affects the city of Lowell, that these are charter laws. The charter is like our Constitution to the city of Lowell, and they all should be adhered to, and we should all know which ones apply. And just remember this in closing, that if this were the law relating to a tax or a fee, it would be followed to the letter of the law, and it would be enforced to the letter of the law. And we all know that. So I'd just like to also say, God bless America. I'm a Christian. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you,
Did he
Mr.
just
O'Connor.
violate the Constitution?
Yeah, he did the sign of the cross.
Okay. Council Rita Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to refer his, and give his petition to the city solicitor and give her some much more needed work. That's what I want to do, because I'm wondering about that, because I thought we'd be having a police officer here with handcuffs taking us all away, because I'm wondering if for some reason they can't contribute to a political candidate, but can they contribute to a committee? So I wanted to know that. I think I'd like to hear a little bit more about this Section 108, because I really didn't know. And God knows we don't want to violate the law.
All right. A motion to refer the petition to the city solicitor for a response or report.
Yeah, an interpretation of this particular
report. Second by Councilor Broderick.
ordinance.
Thought we had it here already.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to the solicitor for a report and analysis of this provision of the charter. Mr. Manager?
Mr. Mayor, just one comment I would make, reference to the charter being on file in the clerk's office. It should be on file in the clerk's office, and I've had a meeting with the city clerk and with the city solicitor. We're in the process of updating that and the whole recodification, and it's my expectation that it'll be completed within the next couple of months, and then it will be there for the people to see, and it will be put on the website as well.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercia?
Mr. Mayor, I know that this particular Section 107 was amended again in 1989, so could we have what was amended into it? Because maybe it eliminates all the previous things that was before it, because I know that the city manager wants to highly contribute it to my campaign in the re-election, and so I didn't want that to stop.
Okay, thank you, Councilor. On to the motions. The first motion is a motion by Councilor Caulfield. The City Council requests the city manager investigate ways and means for the purchasing department to do more business with local businessmen and women. Second by Councilor Elliott. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I know this has been brought forward before, but I was at one of the local businesses in the city, and they brought it to my attention that they pay their taxes. It was a local paint store. There's 3 paint stores in the city. There's many hardware stores, many plumbing supply houses. And I talked to the purchasing agent, and we do quite a bit of business with a home building supply in Tewksbury. And they don't pay any taxes in this city at all. And the gist of the motion is to try to work with the local businessmen and women if we're going to be purchasing supplies for the city, to try to reach out to them legally, if we can do that in the bidding process, or come up with ways and means of opening up purchase accounts with local hardware stores and supply houses in the city. They pay their taxes, and this businessman told me he pays a substantial amount of taxes to the city. So I'm bringing his message forward, and let's see if we can come up with ways and means, Mr. Manager, to try to work with the local businesses. They're the ones who are really paying the bills, so thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did receive a report on October 31st of '06, because I agree with Councilor Caulfield, and I had filed the same motion based upon conversations with people, and Mr. Moses did respond. I mean, we can't violate 30B. We have to go through bidding processes, but what I think we can do, and I think what has changed in the last short while, is that we've only put a smaller amount on these blanket purchase agreements, and we do have a ceiling of $5,000 that we could allocate on these blankets. The only requirement is that you have to keep accurate records of what you did purchase. So we're not trying to circumvent 30B, but there is that provision, I believe, according to your memo, Mr. Moses, that the limit is $5,000, and I think the concern with the local businesses is that we've put a much lower dollar figure, so employees are going to, they're going to other vendors, which have higher purchase limits, if I'm not mistaken.
Mr. Manager?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, the memo from Tom Moses and the memo from me back in October is, I believe that's one report that the council received. I think there was an early one, too, that the solicitor had provided to you. Let me just say, and I did speak with Councilor Caulfield earlier today about this issue. We have some concerns with just the whole process of procurement in the city, that it's a very cumbersome process, and I think that there can be some efficiencies realized by doing things a little bit differently, and there's some recommendations, again, coming through the Department of Revenue and working with the new city auditor, that I think will improve the way we operate. We'll be able to obtain or procure goods and services in a more efficient way, still complying with 30B. And as a result of that, there may be increased opportunities for from local vendors getting involved in the process. Obviously, our goal here is to, our number one goal is to comply with the law and to realize the most cost-effective procurement for the citizens as a whole. But certainly, if we can do things to help the local businesses as well, that certainly is advantageous. So we're working on a number of those issues. Of course, the purchasing agent is retiring. We're currently now seeking applicants for that position, and we're hoping to have someone that has some background in the municipal procurement area that can work with the CFO and the city auditor to ensure that the law is complied with, but that there is the flexibility and the streamlining that we're looking for.
Mr. Manager, do you have a time frame when this can take place?
I'm
when it'll
hoping
take place? I mean, because if you do speak to the local businesses, they're struggling. I mean,
Right.
they're legitimately struggling, and a certain percentage they relied and look forward to working with the city,
Right.
and having that taken away is just squeezing them that much more.
I'm hoping this can be achieved by the end of this fiscal year, that we can look at this whole procurement process. Now, we can't just procure from local businesses. As I said, we're required by the law and the spirit of the law to seek the best possible prices. But I think that some of the way that the procurement has been set up in the past limits the ability of the local businesses to participate in the process, and that's what we're really trying to get.
But these small purchases, there's no requirement. You don't even have to. I mean, as long as there's a blanket, and you don't even have to go out on an annual basis to solicit. Three quotes. Excuse me.
Right.
So it seems like maybe there is some compromise or balance
There's some
in between.
balance there that we need to achieve,
Okay.
and that's what we're hoping to achieve, as I say, by the end of this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you.
I would, if I could, Mr. Manager, I get the same complaints that Councilor Caulfield, Councilor Elliott, I know all the councilors have, this issue persists. I mean, I know there was a change a few years ago and local business reacted adversely to it, and there were some attempts, I think, to at least level the playing field for local businesses, but that really hasn't worked completely. And so we continue to get these complaints. Obviously, we want to get the best price for the taxpayer, but you're working on a plumbing job and a pipe lets go. You don't want to have to go out and solicit a bid, for another 3/4 inch piece of copper pipe. So it's not only the little jobs, it's ongoing projects too. So the sooner we can get this addressed in a comprehensive way so that our local businesses have a level playing field with others, I think the better off we're all going to be. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And, just to touch on this subject, when there's ever a fundraiser in the city, we are out to raise funds for a needy cause. Who do we go to? We go to the local businessman and woman. Can you contribute to this fund? It's a needy cause. And just besides paint and hardware and so forth, the amount of tires, Mr. Manager, the vehicles that the city owns and so forth, where are we purchasing our tires? There's many local businesses that are in that business, in the tire business and so forth. So that's the gist of the motion, to try to do business with people who do business with us.
Right. Councilor, I agree with you completely on that. I think there has to be that balance, that the city's budget and the money we utilize to procure goods has to benefit the entire community. And we can't take actions that are only going to benefit a few with where we're procuring or how we're procuring. But I do think that, again, I think the system can be streamlined in such a way that will help the operation of the city and simultaneously help with having local vendors have an opportunity to participate. Clearly, the responsibility of the city is to, as I say, to benefit the entire community and not to benefit only a few. But I do think there's a balance there that can be realized.
Right. To put everyone on the same level playing field, and to do business with someone who wasn't paying us a dime of taxes, that irritates me. So thank you.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion by Councilor Caulfield, Councilor Mercier. The City Council requests the City Manager provide the City Council with an updated and full report on the Stocklosa School. Second by Councilor Rita Mercier. Councilor Mercier.
And thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. The reason this has become a joint motion is because I was going to put a motion in to request an update from the manager on the negotiations that took place not too long ago with outside counsel and our law department regarding the Stocklosa School, and in particular the classroom, the $290,000. My understanding was a lot of progress made with the bonding company, and when I researched it, I found that this is a motion that Councilor Caulfield had made, and therefore I called him and I says, do you want to bring this in as an unanswered motion? He said, well, why don't we just bring it in as a joint motion? So I understand that you had indicated to us at one time that there was some resolution put together regarding the Stocklosa School issue with the bonding company, if I recall. And we were going to get a copy of that report at some point in time. And so the purpose of the motion is, that's what I'm looking for, is a copy and an update on what took place and where are we.
Mr. Manager.
Councilor, I guess there are several different issues here with regards to the Stocklosa School. One was the issue of the bonding company. That's been resolved, and we did provide you with communications on that back in December. I'd be happy to provide those to you again. There was also, then there's the issue of the punch list items, and Mr. McCarthy and members of the DPW are working at chopping that away right now, where we picked up, and to make sure that all the work that needs to complete the job is being done. The third item is, and I think is the one that you're most interested in, is that's the report that we had from outside counsel that came in and worked with staff, including the solicitor's office, to put together a report, a compilation of what happened with the Stocklosa School, and just some ideas and findings with regards to that. And at a couple of meetings ago, we discussed that report, and it had been initially my intention to, bring it to the Stocklosa or the school subcommittee, but upon the advice of counsel, the solicitor's office, as well as outside counsel, the recommendation was to make a report to the entire council in executive session. We've been working to set up that schedule. We've got the 20th of March set up as a date for that meeting to take place, where we would provide you with that report.
Okay, so that is when we'll be getting the update and the report on
we
the
can
final
give you,
piece.
We can give you. We can
I
give you
don't
the,
need the one for December. I'm really particularly interested in the one that you were just talking about.
the report that will be coming on March 20th.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Councilor Caulfield, did you have?
I think my colleague, Councilor Mercier, has said it all. I just would like to put this to rest and move forward. It's been out there for the longest time, and just to put any second guesses or questions to it. And I'm very happy, Mr. Manager, that we did get the bonding company squared away, the punch list. The city received, I believe, $250,000 from the bonding company, and we had to pay them a certain amount of money. But I'm happy that that has been resolved, and I'm happy to resolve any more issues pertaining to the Stocklosa School. So, thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. I agree. It would be nice for the issue to go away, but maybe I'm just going to be a little bit more cynical, because I don't think that it's going to go away until the audit is complete by the Department of Education. In fact, and one of my questions to DOR this week was, where are we with the SBA and the audits for the other 13 or 14 schools that have not been completed. And SBA is now going through and they're trying to catch up on the backlog of these audits that have not been completed and looking at very closely disallowed costs, and not just interest costs, because that dollar figure to Lowell is approximately $11 million. Some of those may, and the majority of them of those costs may be interest costs, but by the same token, they're not allowing and they're not going to reimburse costs that do not have documented paperwork. Everything from, and I'm going to ask the auditor to, to maybe shed a little bit more information than I know, but when I hear that message from the Department of Revenue, I do get concerned with the $290,000 that a payment was made with no backup information, and that's specifically what they're looking for, not just on the Stocklosa school, but on the two, the Pawtucket and the Pine and all of the other schools, and not just in Lowell, throughout the state, and they're becoming very strict on it. So I'll welcome the report as far as mediating the issues at the Stocklosa school, but that is clearly, in my mind, not going to make the $290,000 claim that was submitted go away by any stretch. In fact, I highly doubt, unless we can prove to them that what we got for the $290, we're not going to get a nickel of reimbursement back, and that's a big chunk of change when it comes to this project. So, Mr. Mayor, could, through you to the auditor, is that your understanding as to? I mean, that's what I learned from Melinda or from the Department of Revenue.
Actually, the auditors were in last week, and I gave them 3 big boxes full of documentation on the high school, the Stocklosa, and the Pine. So they're in the process of still working on those. I've been digging upstairs, going through the attic. I've been going through trailers, going every place I can find to find these invoices. And we're just about there on the Stocklosa, just about there on the high school, and a little bit more work needs to be done on the Pine. So I'm working with the auditors as we speak, pulling out all those old invoices, contracts, and it's been going well so far. I have a pile of requests from them to us for information. I don't know why the stuff wasn't pulled together, but I'm pulling it together now.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilor Broderick.
Thank you. I actually had filed a motion for the auditor a while ago, and she mentioned that that you're close to putting together the information for the Stocklosa school. Basically, the question was, how much did we pay for it?
Yes.
And I think hopefully we'll have some answers in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Correct.
But I have a funny feeling it's going to be a lot more than we borrowed, and I think we're going to find out that we paid. The $290 is going to seem like pennies compared to what we actually overpaid for the school compared to what we budgeted, the $24.5 million. So I don't think this is going to be put to rest in an executive session. I think we're going to have other issues, because I don't think that's going to be reimbursable. So I think these are things we're going to be faced with, and I don't know if that will be that. I mean, we're already talking 2 weeks out. I don't want to put added pressure. I know you're digging through boxes in the 10-year-old acre plan to try and find out what payments and monies were used. But if there's a way you could have some information, and maybe we could get some kind of initial report anyway for the executive session and a regular council. I don't think it has to be executive session for that. Just to get an idea of what the magnitude is, how much the city actually overspent or overpaid for the school. Thank you.
Councilor Donahue.
Thank you. Just for clarification, obviously this report we've discussed several times, and we've discussed it in the subcommittee. And again, my understanding, the basis for the recommendation that we receive the report in executive session is because there is ongoing litigation. Is that correct, Mr. Manager?
That is correct, Councilor.
And so to discuss the report publicly as it pertains to the ongoing litigation could adversely affect the interest of the city, or may, or whatever the statute says.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make it clear to the public. I mean, I know I and many of my colleagues have always been loath to go into executive session because people always have this question, well, why are they going into executive session? Why can't we know what they're talking about? And, you know, this is, again, one of those issues that we're relying on the advice of counsel because it pertains and may touch on issues that are pending. That said, any other areas that are unrelated to executive session, we should obviously break out and deal with on the council floor, so that, you know, it should be limited strictly to things that are pertaining to litigation, such as things that Councilor Broderick brought up. And also, whether it's for that meeting on the 20th or another, in the subcommittee, the joint subcommittee meeting, we had a few meetings back with the school committee. That's when was one of the first times I heard of all these disallowed costs in the ongoing audits, I should say. And we had asked for an update, and in fact, we didn't know about those disallowed costs at the time it was brought up over at the school department. And I know Madam Auditor had not even started yet, so she certainly didn't know about them. But if we can get, you know, not just what's going on, but the costs that have been disallowed, because I was surprised to hear that some had been challenged by the city, some had not. And if we can be brought up to date, because we keep talking about all the schools we built and then we got 90% reimbursement. Well, if you run those figures out, we didn't get 90% reimbursement. And I think we should know that, because there were, you know, big dollars that were disallowed. Mr. Manager?
Councilor, I just hitting on a couple of your points. The information that Councilor Broderick was looking for in terms of the total cost certainly shouldn't be discussed in executive session. That should be, you're correct in that. That should be done in open session. I believe Mr. Moses has put together a spreadsheet of all those disallowed costs, and we can get you a copy of that. I thought that we had been working on that, so we can get you that, because that is certainly valuable information to know what has happened. That particularly for this fiscal year coming up, it's going to be a $3.5 million difference for us in our reimbursement. The debt service will remain that we've been paying the last several years, but without $3.5 million of reimbursement, it's going to be a major drain on our financial resources.
I mean, I think as best we can, if we can put together a report so that we know what was disallowed, why it was disallowed, was it challenged? If not, why not? So that we know, not just for the schools that we already built, but again, the Stocklosa audit has to happen and so forth, so that we really know what the schools have cost us. We always are talking about, you know, with the budget time in the school department, how much the city pays. And, you know, oftentimes people say, well, you get 90% reimbursement. Well, we're paying those bills. And in many cases, it's not 90%. We're paying a lot more than our 10% share. So I just want those figures, that's all.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Auditor, I do know that the cost to renovate Lowell High School is $40 million. And I believe 3 or 4 years later, the city had to rebuild a stage because it was done in such a horrible fashion. I just want to pick up what Councilor Broderick said, overspent at the Stocklosa School. We all know there was a cost to build the school, but the council also voted for eminent domain takings, and the excavation at that school was immense. I believe the city took 3 to 4 feet of soil out of there in order to clean up any contamination or any questions to contamination. So I don't know what the overspent was, but the building cost or the school cost, a figure. What was that figure, Madam?
I don't have all the figures with me tonight, but
Okay.
I have them separated out, the cost of the building versus the cost of the eminent domain, the takings and the soil removals.
There were
All come
many
in
added
separate
expenses
Yes.
besides the school.
Yes.
Now, you want to talk about overspent or money wasted, like the $38,000 dimmer switch in the auditorium, the state-of-the-art filtering system for any chemicals that might be put into the sewage system. There's no chemicals in the building. So there's a lot of things you can look at that, and that's why this committee, looking at the new Maury School, we stressed that all the bells and whistles have to be eliminated. Build a good school which will provide a good education for the students in this city. The Stocklosa School, there's many bells and whistles in that building. It's the most beautiful school we ever built, but there were things that could have been and should have been excluded. Thank you.
Councilor Broderick?
Thank you. Maybe I should clarify. When I say overspent, I don't mean we spent too much for the school. We paid too much to have, we should have done things differently, not had chemical filtration. What I mean is that I assume we got prices, bids, we borrowed money, bonded money to pay for what we thought we were going to incur in costs. And I think we spent far in excess of what we borrowed and what we anticipated spending for the school. In other words, my memory, and I came in at the tail end, was more money was borrowed to account for extra costs, putting the classrooms back, furniture, things like that. I don't have the history on this that goes back to, was there extra excavation to pull materials out? However, I'd be willing to bet that money was, because it has to be, I think, by law, budgeted and have a way to fund it. So my overpayment statement relates to that we had a school built. It's kind of like going out and buying a Cadillac. You get a price and then paying more than what you actually think you paid for it. For $20,000, you pay $22,000. That's what I mean by overpaying. I think we paid maybe over $26 million for a $24.5 million school. That's what I consider to be overpayment, not the fact that we put in brass fixtures, lighting, or anything else that maybe in hindsight could have been pulled out and done otherwise. I'm talking about just mismanagement and overpayment and confusion and money used from wrong accounts that it shouldn't have been done. It's that simple. More money spent than we should have. Thank you.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
I would like to follow up on what Councilor Eileen Donahue said. I strongly believe in that. This report should not be so encompassing where we go into executive session for sections of the report that doesn't require us to do that. It should be broken up that this is why we're going into executive session. And it clearly should spell out that we need to and we're able to under the law. I don't want to go into an executive session that has items that can clearly be brought out publicly, and so I agree with her on that. I will not go into executive session, will not vote to go into executive session if there are things there that doesn't require it. So this is where I'm coming from. And I just want to make one quick comment about sometimes loosely worded statements like mismanagement. Until we get these reports, until we know exactly why it costs more than we anticipated, okay, I don't think we should be calling it mismanagement unless we clearly can prove that. I take offense to that, because sometimes when you build something and you execute change orders that adds on to the project and you approve them, okay, it was decided at that point in time that that should be added to it. Doesn't necessarily mean because you went over the budget you mismanage it. So that's why it's important that these reports that we keep talking about come out publicly, so that we can really put to bed this whole situation of Stocklosa School. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion's approved. Next motion by Councilor Rita Mercia. The City Council requests the City Manager remedy complaints from residents in the rear units of the Moeller's Lofts regarding noise from the nightclub in close proximity. Second by Councilor Caulfield. There is somebody registered to speak on this issue. Peter Padula, 33 Middle Street. Mr. Padula.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Pete Padula from, I live at 33 Middle Street, Unit 12. I have one of my neighbors here as well, Sue McMaster. And I have a verbal petition from 9 of my other neighbors. We all own rear-facing, or we live in rear-facing units. So the back of our condo faces the back of the buildings on Merrimack Street. At 76 Merrimack Street, which is on the 3rd floor, there's a nightclub that began operating about a year after we took residency. And it's really loud. It's so loud that my windows shake when they're in operation, which is usually from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes on Sunday, and Sunday's not quite as loud usually. But the club is called Rumba's Nightclub. They do business as Doramar LLC. And I'd say it's my window is here, and right where the mayor is where they are. It's like a brick echo chamber. So it's really just sort of this difficult situation where, and they have large windows. So we have large windows and they have large windows, and it's just very difficult to live there. So that's the situation. I began to deal with this last fall. The club had their license suspended for matters unrelated to our situation. They were, I think, they were police department matters. I was able to speak, and it was quite kind of the License Commission to listen to my complaints. Again, I will be speaking again. The club is currently shut down by the License Commission, again, for matters unrelated to our complaints. This is, I believe, like a liquor violation or something. But those are kind of unrelated to us. I mean, we moved in sort of thinking we could live there. And I understand the growing pains of the downtown area. And I just wanted to mention that we are also abutters to the old court on the very same alley, which this Saturday night had 2 live bands going at the same time, and we have no complaints. It's specifically just a function of our property being so close to their property, and it's just so much glass. It's like they're in my bedroom. So what I've done is try to sell my apartment, which I really do not want to do. I was quite excited to move to the downtown, to be a part of the downtown. I'm trying to sell under duress. I have 2 other neighbors who are also trying to sell under duress. They've been trying to sell for 6 months. The market's been down, I realize. And it's just a really difficult situation. We don't quite know what to do. That's basically it, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Just to give the council an update, Mr. Padula, and we've spoken about this issue as well. And I think Councilor Mercy was about to probably say the same thing, that the license has been revoked.
Yes.
But there is a hearing this Thursday to hear an appeal by the license holder. So I would certainly suggest that you attend.
Yeah, I have been, someone from your office, Mr. Coggins, has been, and also the police chief, both contacted me and all of us that are on the email list, and I am planning to be there. I have no idea what to expect, and it seems like it's not really related to our matter. I mean, I would like for them to remain in business peacefully with us. I have no problem with them being in business. The example I cited is the old court. We had no illusions about, I had no illusions about living in the downtown. It's fine. It's just that for them, I think, to do normal operation, to satisfy their crowd, they have to play music incredibly loud. That's just good business to them. I do understand that. But what it means is I can't live in my home. And it's just, it's probably part of the growing pains of the downtown. I'm just hoping there might be some remedy other than for me to sell under duress and start driving our condominium association property values down, and just, my mind goes into difficult situations for me, and it could pretend to be a difficult situation for me financially as well. So anyway, thanks.
Councilor Rita Mercia on the motion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I brought this motion up because I did receive a call from Peter some time ago, like a month ago. And when I did, he told me about all his problems, and I said, can we just have a report with the police department? Are you calling them up and letting them know maybe they can handle it in some way? And then if you get nowhere, please let me know. And he sent me this letter, and I made a copy for all of my colleagues, and I'm sorry that I did that before the city council meeting. I should have copied the letter and put it in the packet on Friday so you could digest it. But this man has gone above and beyond, and there's an addendum on the 3rd page that states everything that he's done. He made 10 calls to the police department to complain. He visited he 1 visit by an officer to this home to assess the sound level, 3 calls to the club owner himself, a call to Ryan Wynn, call to the Department of Inspectional Services. He met with the Downtown Neighborhood Association to no avail. He called me to no avail. So I'm bringing this motion here in the sense that maybe we can all collectively try to find a way to help the people that live there. I don't want residents in the city to feel helpless. I feel helpless because I can sense his helplessness. And then to the point where he thinks that he wants to move out and sell and get out of here. I know that the downtown and the bars and the nightclubs and the places downtown were there long before buildings were converted into condo units. Absolutely. But as the speaker said, he has no problem with Old Court. They have loud music and stuff, but they're at such an angle that you're not back to back. And so I don't know if we could have made a zoning change in that respect to that building. I don't know, it's spot zoning, I suppose, but could we ask that it be soundproof? I don't even know, but he called in a person to put soundproof fiber in the walls of his home, and it would cost him $6,000. I don't know that he should have to incur that expense. I'm coming to you in a desperate attempt to try to find a way to help the families, not just Peter, but other residents. If you look through the letter, and I have the letter for you to see, that he's done everything possible to try to figure it out. Now, he's even gone to the point where Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, he'd go over a friend's just to get out of the apartment. That's unacceptable that you'd have to get out of your condo unit during that time. I wish we could help him in some way, and that's my motion, the gist of my motion.
Thank you. Councilor Donahue?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a problem, not the Mahler's Lofts, but we've dealt with this over the years in the downtown when some establishments were really noisy. And in what's being explained tonight, if this particular place has glass, well, the sound barrier is just not there. So, and they opened up after this condominium was. So anyway, to make that's all well and good. I mean, it sounds to me like they're disturbing the peace. It's loud enough. But as a practical matter, isn't there? And this is just by way of a suggestion. I know it has worked some years ago. Bring in the property owner, and the business owner, and see if there's a way of working out some kind of solution, because this isn't just one person, it's a whole building that's being affected. Now, maybe the owner isn't interested, maybe they have other issues with the license, and I don't want to get into that at the moment, but it seems to me that we should proactively try and, reach some kind of resolution here. But I don't think they should be allowed, even under our existing laws, or ordinances, to disturb the peace on a regular basis, so that people, if I was blasting music in my home, I'm sure the police could come and say, you're disturbing the peace. Nobody can, get any sleep here. So, I know, and I don't want to name the places, but I know Councilor Mercy and I, when we were on the neighborhood subcommittee years ago, remember all downtown, they would open the doors and play the music, and it was going right across to Market Mills, and we had to have the business owners in through the subcommittee, and it worked out, and they agreed to keep the doors closed, they agreed to turn the music down, they agreed to turn it down after like midnight, so that even lower, and the complaints kind of stopped after we went through a few months of working. So that I just throw it out by way of a suggestion. Maybe there is some way of getting them to the table, assuming their other issues are, I don't know what's happening there, but.
Thank you. Councilor Ramirez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think Councilor Donahue said it pretty clearly, and we're charged with public policy, and if they're not disturbing the peace and they are in compliance with the noise ordinance, but they're still, at the end of the day, constructively evicting almost the whole neighborhood, we've got an issue and we've got to deal with it. And so I think that we need to get these parties at the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Broderick?
Well, thank you. It's pretty much been said that there's got to be a solution, whether it's a violation of the noise ordinance and in some type of forcing of changes or bringing parties together for a resolution. I think that there's got to be some type of solution. So because the solution can't be a new development just becoming vacant because people can't live there. That's not. We can't have that. Thank you.
Everybody has their hand up. Trying to go in the order that I saw them. So Councilor Elliott.
I
is
just
next.
believe I agree. It's unfortunate that this gentleman had to write a letter to come to the city council and that this couldn't be addressed. I would presume through the police department. I mean, 1 or 2 calls. We do have a noise ordinance. Maybe, we have to. Maybe the police department needs to be made aware of what it is, and I think it's just common sense. If the gentleman's windows are rattling, then they got to turn the music down, and if they don't, then maybe they need to be fined. I mean, we want to be business friendly, but I feel bad for this person and his neighbors, and maybe there's other people clearly that have been affected in the past. It's a recurring problem. We're happy to deal with it here, but why did he have to make so many phone calls, go through so many people to get no service, no response? And we all put ourselves in that situation. If there's loud noise, I would call the police and have it addressed, hopefully immediately, not months later. So is there a process that we can put in place to let the police know, look, this is, if they're disturbing the peace, violating the noise ordinance, we shouldn't have to bring in, I don't know, technicians to get a reading on some, mechanism that it's too loud. I mean, so, Mr. Manager, can we put a process in place other than meeting with business owners on a recurring basis or bring them to the license commission? Look, if it's too loud, turn it down, and if you don't like it, then, do something else, I suppose.
Right. If I may.
Or I just want to follow up. Can we put these conditions, because it seems to be the bars, can we put conditions in the license when it's issued?
Well, that
Mr. Manager.
That would have to be something the License Commission would have to do, and certainly something that we can investigate. It's not unusual, certainly, that certain conditions be put in to deal with issues like this. I think Mr. Padula will tell you that he has called the police, and they have responded. They have been out there. Noise, they have not been out.
Just to speak in defense of the police department, it's a function of the architecture. I mean, the buildings it's this low, it's just, for them to come, like in the alley, it doesn't sound that loud. You have to come up to and it was really my neighbors, Keith and Julie Reynolds, who had them up the number of times, and they did finally have an officer up to their apartment. But if you go over to the club, and it's just a strange thing. It's their normal course of business is just really makes our building shake. So I think the police on those busy nights, it seems like a small matter to them. And
right, I think I've spoken to Superintendent LaValle about this, and he has been out there, or he has been out there, but he's been sending police officers. They've been monitoring the situation. They've been trying to deal with this problem. It is a very difficult problem. I'm frankly hoping that it may be resolved due to other issues. But clearly, it's something that we're going to need to sit and figure out some type of solution for this. And certainly, it's. It's a problem that you are going to have in the downtown area, but I think that the residents have been very accommodating and understanding, but at the same time they have a right to their quality of life. So we'll continue to work on this issue, and Councilor Elliott described some type of process of how we do this. Obviously, in terms of enforcing any type of ordinance, there are standards, and you have to be able to defend the action that the city takes. We want to, but we have to try to work at this.
Thank you, Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to chime in with my colleagues on this issue. Downtown is not like we used to know downtown. Downtown is a neighborhood. People live there, sleep there, etc. And it's businesses as well. But a business should not interfere with the peace and tranquility of other people. And we've had this issue come up before, Mr. Manager. The building department, building commissioner, health department, they have ways and means of measuring the decibels. And if they're too loud, they're off the air. And with the amplifying system that they have, that these rock bands have now, you could shatter a pane of glass, never mind creating a noise level. I've had the same problem in my neighborhood, and I had to tell this particular band that they just can't do it. It's the same thing as a diesel engine running for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. It works on your nerves. This man should not have to move out of his house. We should move to stop the noise. And that's what we recommend, and I applaud Council Mercier for bringing this forward. But I believe years ago, David St. Hilaire, we had the same problem. They had a meter, measure the decibels, and if those decibels were too loud, gone.
Well, Councilor, I do believe that they have gone out there with that equipment, and I will double check on that. But I know that this is something the police have been looking at, the health department's been looking at, inspectional service has been involved in this, all of the regulatory departments, and we'll continue to.
This is in the hands of the License Commission?
This is not this issue. This establishment has currently had their license revoked, and it's on appeal. It's being heard this Thursday.
But this issue could be in the hands of the License Commission, seeing that it's a not the noise.
No. I mean, it could be a case where if they're cited for violations and they fail to take appropriate action, then there's illegalities occurring at the establishment, and then the License Commission could step in, I believe. But that all has to follow a process as well.
Yeah, I imagine there's other people complaining about this besides yourself.
Yeah, I have another letter here from my downstairs neighbor, Mrs. Susan Capone Feynman, which I think she sent to you. And, we just are concerned for so many reasons. I won't take your time by reading it because it's basically the same story. We're concerned as owners for our values. We're concerned as, residents. I mean, honestly, I'm concerned for the business too. I mean, it's not like I'm trying to put a business out of business, but it's really, there's no way I personally can live there. I do have my neighbors who already moved out. They're paying 2 mortgages now because they got out. When did they leave, Sue? Like 10 months? It's about 6 months ago. They couldn't take it anymore. They bought a house in the suburbs. They've been trying to sell their place. Now, so these things go through my mind. Well, maybe I can rent my place. Well, I got to find a renter who can deal with this, at least so then I can move back in with my family. And, this is just a difficult situation. And also the opposite of exactly what I didn't want, which is what I wanted was to come and be a part of this community. I really do like the community, so I'm trying to make that happen.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, on the addendum, Peter, it said that one visit by an officer to the home to assess the sound level. Did they have a decibel reading?
That was to Keith and Julie Reynolds' unit, which is next to mine. That happened, and they're not here. I do not know the answer to that.
You don't know the answer?
They took more action than I did, because I'm still fairly new.
Is it possible? Do we actually have a decibel level reader in the city? Do we have one?
Councilor, I believe we do. The health department would have that because they're the ones that are responsible for that.
So
portion of the ordinance.
If this gentleman calls at 11 o'clock at night and we need a police officer there with a decibel reading, how are we going to get the health inspector there at that time of night? Wouldn't the police department need to have one too, since they'll be the one going up to a person's home? I don't know why we wouldn't have one in the police department as well as the,
I would anticipate that they would contact the health department and in that case, but we can follow up on that.
Okay, and also, I was wondering if I could have that letter from this woman to add to the report.
Yep.
That I'll give you that letter.
I do have a copy.
You do have
she emailed me earlier, a couple days ago. I responded to her today.
Right. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Milanazzo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we know who the building owner actually is? I assume that the operator of the establishment is a tenant.
Yes.
Is a tenant?
Yes.
Okay. Have they been required by the License Commission, do you know, to actually install interior soundproofing? Because, I mean, you can buy interior sections that they could put up.
I do not believe that they have been required by the License Commission to do that.
Okay.
They do meet, one of the, and I believe it's in the third page of that, in the addendum to the letter, that they, one of the questions that was put to me that was referred to the inspectional services, whether they actually had the proper permits and had complied with the permits, and they had.
They had.
Mr. St. Hilaire went out and checked that.
Okay. Again, I know my colleagues have said it this evening, but again, it's difficult when we're trying to kind of bring these, two parties together to let them live peacefully, quietly in their units, at the same time encourage businesses to come to the downtown. So I know it's a difficult situation, and I hope we all continue to try to strive to work out an appropriate solution. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I would suggest, Mr. Manager, too, I mean, if this license somehow does come back, I mean, maybe this needs to be a condition of the license, that they not be allowed to continue to operate this way. But perhaps that police department will take that matter up with the License Commission. Anything further on this? All right. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Thanks for your patience, not only tonight, but with this entire issue. The next motion is by Councilor Rita Mercier. City Council requests the Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee revisit the dumpster ordinance and have proper department enforced laws, i.e. surrounding or enclosing the dumpsters. Second by Councilor Milanazzo. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion speaks for itself in that I received a call from Conrad Gauthier and a few of his residents in the immediate area of this particular problem. So he knew that there was a dumpster ordinance. He doesn't know if it's enforced in regards to the surrounding the dumpster and the enclosure as well. But I understand that Councilor Bud Caulfield is having a neighborhood traffic subcommittee meeting on March 12th on a Monday. I would like to refer this motion to his subcommittee, and I will call Conrad Gauthier and have him appear there, along with the rest of the residents that are concerned about it. That's the gist of the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Councilor Armin Mercier. Requests the City Council go on record opposing the local option tax proposal. Second by Councilor Rita Mercier. There is a registered speaker, Mark Goldman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Mr. Manager, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, my name is Mark Goldman, 58 Oakland Street, Lowell, Mass. I'm here to speak in favor of Councilor Armin Mercier's motion. This is bad tax policy, bad economic development policy, bad public policy, period. And there are two reasons. One, on the tax policy, we live very close to the New Hampshire border. And the restaurants are having a hard enough time as it is here in Lowell, making a living, and taxes have to be done a different way. Tax policy needs to be done by having the state of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts give more local aid to the cities and the towns. This is not the way to do it. An economic development policy, the reason that's bad, we want to keep the restaurants and the small restaurants in business. We don't want them, they create jobs. That brings in tax revenue to the city. We don't want to lose that. So I hope that after this council deliberates, that a roll call vote is taken, because it needs to be sent directly to the legislature and to the governor. This is bad public policy for the restaurants. And I wish there was a divided type, because the hotels, I don't have as much of a problem with that as I do in the restaurants. This is bad public policy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Armin Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I didn't realize that Mr. Goldman had looked at my notes. I have very little to say. But I want to clarify that what I'm looking for is a vote of this council to notify our delegation that we oppose, if we do oppose, this local option tax. Border town, border town, border town, that's what we are. And as far as I'm concerned, I would like them to be aware that this council does not approve of this local option tax potential. I know that there is talk from Boston that Mr. Menino wants this, and he wants this badly, But I think when you look at the legislation that is proposed by the governor, a piece of that, if, for instance, the city would adopt this and then impose a local option tax, a piece of that tax would go back to the state, and that would leave very little for us. I think what we need from the state is more local aid, more lottery money, not more avenues to tax. I normally would not put the council in this particular position, but I don't want to send mixed signals to the legislature and particularly to our delegation. I know that the Managers Municipal Association group are in favor of this, and I respect their position on this. And I understand that our manager is also, because of in that organization and also as a professional manager, is in favor of this. And again, I don't want mixed messages sent. I don't think this council should approve this. I think that this should be opposed by us and to let our delegation know. I don't think we should waste any time sending it to the governor. I would ask my counselor to the left over there is very close to the governor to maybe convey to him the feelings of this council. But basically, that's what the motion is all about. It's to notify our delegation that this council opposes this local option tax proposal mainly because we are border town, and our businesses do not need this additional burden. And although this doesn't automatically put it on them, I would like to see it nipped at the bud right where it's at, and that's in the state legislature. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Council Broderick?
Thank you. Excuse me. I understand better now after Councilor Armin Mercy has spoken on his motion, what the motion, the intent is, because at first I didn't understand it because it was proposed by the governor, but the legislature hasn't taken it up yet. I guess I have several questions because I don't have as much information on the proposal and in the different, with the split in the tax and all the information that apparently may be out there. I'm not in the legislature. I haven't had the opportunity to read it and digest it. I would like to, if we could maybe substitute a motion to ask the manager to report to the Economic Development and Finance Subcommittee to, I mean, my concern is, first off, we don't want to lose business. We struggle hard enough as it is to bring business in. So I think we ought to look at it first before we shoot it down, or send that message. Excuse me, because we're looking at, we don't know what our budget's going to be. We don't know what our revenue's going to be. We may be looking at increased taxes in the city. And I know I've heard from residents who are concerned that we're going to throw something off or shoot something down before we really know much about it. And again, the tax burden's going to fall square on their backs. I think that we owe it to the residents at least to at least look at it and look at the ramifications and what does it really mean in revenue, potential revenue. I haven't had, I was away for a week. I haven't had the opportunity to talk to business owners and find out what their concerns are. The obvious concern is that they're going to eat the increase because they can't pass it on, or they're going to lose business. In any event, you know, if it's gonna have a real detriment to the business, then I'd like to know. I haven't had that opportunity, but I think that, you know, there's a number of things that I particularly, I don't know, I just don't know enough about it to say I think we want it. I'm comfortable voicing my opinion for my constituents that we don't want it. The other part of it is that it is an option. By not doing anything, we're not invoking it or adopting it. We don't even know what the form is going to be. I guess the proposal, my guess is going to be changed by the legislature. I don't know what form it's going to come out, or if we're even going to take it up for a vote. But personally, I would like to substitute that motion. I haven't. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but to just get a report and even maybe ask someone from the legislature or someone to come in and explain to us, you know, the manager get a report in terms of what is it all about? What are the pros and cons and the pitfalls? Because I understand the economic development side, but I think we need to look at it a little bit further before we send the message that we absolutely are against it, or I do. I can only speak for myself. Thank you.
Second.
That's a motion in substitution to refer the matter to the Economic Development Subcommittee to entertain a report from the manager.
And finance, joint, basically.
Joint.
I think there's two aspects to it.
Second by Councilor Donahue. On the Councilor Donahue?
On the motion. I'd like to know more about it. I mean, I would suspect that and I haven't read, I just know what I read in the newspapers, that's it. I really haven't looked at the legislation. I would agree with Councilor Mercia, as far as where we're situated in the state, this may not be, something that's going to be in the best interest of the city. I know I've heard from, restaurants who say, if this tax goes on, then that will hurt my business. I don't know, it sounded to me like that it was at the option, local option, so that even if this legislation, I think, was passed, the city could say, well, we're not opting in. We're not going to implement this tax. If everybody else around us did, it might benefit the city if we didn't. Some businesses or people may say, well, it's cheaper to eat in Lowell than it is, if you're considering tax and so forth. But I do think some cities or towns may want this because for them, they, Boston, I think, is one that I've read, that they want it. I am more interested in knowing, is there, if Boston adopts it and we don't, how does that all shake out in terms of local aid and stuff? So I would like to know more about it. By asking to know more about it, that's not to say I think, that I'm not passing any judgment as far as the legislation, because I haven't really seen it. I've just seen the newspaper articles. But I certainly am sympathetic with businesses saying, look, we're struggling enough. Please don't make us collect more tax and make it, tougher to attract customers here in Lowell. But this is a statewide thing, and I think we need to have more information from the manager and from our state delegation as far as what they know about it. Maybe get us, an update as to where it stands. It may go nowhere. Maybe one of those things that the governor put out in the legislature is not going to support. But as we sit here tonight, I don't want to vote without knowing more about it. That's all.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
I'm having a hard time wrestling with the fact that Councilor Broderick wants the manager to bring this to the Economic Development Subcommittee when the manager's already on record in favor of this. I have a little problem with that. I think that the only message I'm trying to send from this council is to tell our delegation, at least based on what I know so far, that we oppose this local option proposal that's been submitted to the legislature by the governor. Now, I can understand and I can reason with maybe getting more information on the proposal itself. And I'd be willing to delay action on this until such time as you, Mr. Mayor, or the city clerk, gets the proposal from the legislature to us so we can evaluate it and take a look at it. If there isn't enough information out there, and I can understand that, then I would absolutely have no problems with delaying my motion until that information comes forward through a request of the delegation or the governor's office or wherever you need to get this information, either by the city clerk or you, Mr. Mayor. But as far as the substitute motion, to take this motion and substitute it, you didn't substitute it, you just obliterated the thing. I really don't believe that substitution of what I'm proposing makes any sense. You're going to be asking the manager, who's already on record, and I find no fault at that, in favor of this, to a economic development subcommittee that probably doesn't even deal with the tax situation. So I can't support the substitution. I could, however, be very amenable to putting it off until we do get more information from the legislature, particularly our delegation, as to what this really all means. The only thing I know about it is what I've read in the paper, what I've read in the municipal association paper, that a local option tax for increased taxes on meals and hotels would be given to the different communities the opportunity to do that. I don't even want it to come this far, as far as I'm concerned, because we are a border community. So, I can't support the substitution because it tells the manager to bring to the economic subcommittee
the very information, I think, that
I also mentioned the finance.
But
could I just...
Councilor Broderick.
I mentioned the manager because it's the only direct employee we have that can gather this information. I did mention bringing someone in from the state legislature to explain what their position is, what their understanding of it is. I mean, they might be able to give us some inside information as this is going nowhere. It's a lead balloon. I have questions. I'm not saying I support it. I just don't know enough about it to say I don't want to hear anymore, or I'm going to, I can't make that determination. And I'm not asking the manager to come in and give a recommendation. I think that he's in the best position. The clerk may be able to contact the legislature, but I think to gather the information in terms of this is what it says. Obviously, I would ask the city solicitor, who's familiar with legislative intent in construction, to be able to give her interpretation as to where things are, and some interpretation of the proposal. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not suggesting that, I'm going to support the local option. Okay, I don't even know if it's going to come forward. But what I'm saying is, I don't know enough about it to say that in no way, shape, or form should it be allowed in Massachusetts at this point. I mean, I understand it's option. It could be, I don't even know, is it 1 to 3% they could tag on? And I don't know enough about it. And I'm not asking the manager to come in and make a recommendation for us to adopt or not, but just to bring forward information so that, and I don't think this is something that should take 3 or 4 weeks. I imagine it's something that's readily available, because I understand we want to get, the motion is to get on the record. So maybe if the substitute motion could be to delay it, to bring it into the subcommittee for information, for not a recommendation, but for a report on the proposal, so that we can get the information to take it to a vote. If that's better suited, I have no problem with that, but I want to be clear. I'm not asking the manager for a recommendation on the proposal. I just want to get more information, because I don't know enough about it to be able to take a vote on it.
All right, if I may, just follow up. Taking what Councilor Broderick has just said, then the motion should be to delay action until we get more information about what this means. And I have no problems with that, because the clerk's office, the manager's office, whoever can get this information to us. But to send it to a subcommittee at this stage, to me, is very premature. If you need more information about the legislation, then delay action of my motion until such time as we get that information, and then we can take it up at that point. I just don't think a motion like this should be substituted to be sent to a subcommittee just to get the information. Let us all get the information.
Well, I assume we'd all get the information.
Well, quite frankly, I thought both of those elements were part of the substitute motion, as I heard it anyway. Maybe I didn't hear correctly, but it was to delay action until such time as information about this was reported to the subcommittee.
All right.
I mean,
well, the only problem I have with it is the subcommittee. I think it should be reported to the full committee, who then can decide to send it to a subcommittee. I don't want to place this in the hand of the subcommittee before everybody has the information they require to have to act on it. So, if he would drop that subcommittee part out, I'd have no problem supporting delaying action until we get more information.
Councilor Ramirez has had his hand up here he's coming out of his chair, so why don't
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking like Horshack over here from the, this has been interesting debate back and forth over here, and I certainly sympathize with Councilor Armand's motion that we really should speak with one tongue, but I think it's evident that we don't have one tongue to speak with. And I will say that I would rather, I guess, delay. That was going to be my substitute motion, to just delay action. And whether it's before a subcommittee or the full council, it really doesn't matter to me. I just don't want to prejudge something that I don't really know anything about. And I think that, well, the governor hasn't given me that direct line yet, Armand.
Yep.
I think his intentions are good, and he's trying to come up with creative ways for problem solving. So I'm certainly going to support some type of motion to delay action until I personally have had a chance to read the legislation and get an idea of what its intent is.
I think it's very reasonable. I just don't think it should go to a subcommittee before we know what to send to it.
Councilor Donahue.
Look, I mean, I support the substitute. I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill here, really. My understanding of doing both, delaying and sending it, was to save time, but if we want to wait till we get it and then look at it and say, now let's send it to a subcommittee, then so be it. I don't really care. I just thought it was quicker to do both in one fell swoop. That's why I supported it, but Really doesn't matter. But I just think if we wait and we all get it and we look at it and we say, we need further discussion, we need someone from the state delegation to come in, we need, further explanation, then it's going to get sent to a subcommittee. That was the only point. So I don't care either way, as long as we get the information.
Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I support Councilor Ammermerci's motion immensely. I know everything about it. It's a 3% meals tax. It's going to be 2%, 2%. That was 3%. 2%. 3%, 2%. What's the difference? It's a tax. People are fed up with taxes. It's an increase in the taxes. And Lowell is the hub of Greater Lowell. Dracut, Chelmsford, Tewksbury, Billerica, and so forth. Lowell imposes the meals tax. They're going to go somewhere else. It's going to affect the restaurants in the city, Mr. Manager. And just people are just fed up with taxes, taxes, taxes. And that's what it is. It's not a tax.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To kind of cut to the chase, I was at the Pawtuckaville Citizens Council meeting last night along with Representative Golden, who talked about this issue, and he basically doesn't think that it has much of a chance of actually even coming out of the legislature. But sitting there listening to him, I was actually thinking that this issue, having looked at the agenda, should be referred to the Economic Development Subcommittee. I didn't think of the Finance Subcommittee. I thought, as chairman of the Economic Development Subcommittee, that this should be referred there for information. I had heard that the city manager was in favor of it, although I didn't hear that from him directly. I just picked that up on the street from a couple of restaurant owners. But I do think, and I will support the substitute motion, because I do think we need to get information and get it to the subcommittees for further review, because it could, again, I'm not going to sit here this evening and say I would support it, but it could end up alleviating some pressure on the residential side. It could. I'm not saying it would, but it could if it was actually passed as a local option. But again, I'm not in a position to sit here this evening and say I want to go on record opposing it and or delay action until we get information. I think we should delay action, refer it to the subcommittees to get the information and deliberate in subcommittee. So that's what I'm going to support.
All right. Councilor, why don't you restate your substitute motion if you would, so we are clear on
all right,
what you want to do.
Let me see if I can. Excuse me. Substitute motion to delay action on a vote and send and ask the manager to gather information to meet with the joint meeting between the Economic Development Subcommittee and Finance Subcommittee for informational purposes, perhaps inviting the state legislative delegation. Anybody that wants to come in and talk on it can give us some insight. It's for a question and answer session before we take a vote, not to throw it out so we don't vote, but so we can take a vote. So basically delay, send it to the subcommittee for information and a report, and that's that.
Okay.
Just on a point of clarification, he just added another subcommittee, right?
Yes, I initially...
The joint
joint, economic
So
and
that's-
finance.
Okay.
Because I see it as two aspects to it.
Yes. All right. That motion's been made and seconded. Councilor Elliott.
As long as I can remember, the practice is when there's an issue, we send it to a subcommittee. I guess it is a method of delay. What I don't understand is, first of all, it's a local option for community. So whether the manager is in favor or not in favor, it's this city council has to vote. I think the cart is way before the horse, and it's good that we're getting in front of the horse, I guess, or the cart. But this is so far from, and people should know that it's so far from even coming before the city council. And I probably would not support it. I don't know. I know very little about it, but what I do know is it is another tax, and it's not good, in my opinion, for the businesses here. But we always have an issue. Last week, cable. I think a similar issue. A cable bill, far from being passed. We know little to nothing about it other than what we received before. I shouldn't say little to nothing, but we didn't know all of the parameters of it. Came here, went to the cable subcommittee. There's a meeting next week. So I don't know why we're deviating from that other than Council Mercier, I guess, doesn't want the managers to bring it forward, but someone has to bring the information forward, and the vehicle has to be the manager. So I'm going to support the motion only because it's the practice and it's the way that every other subcommittee, or most issues, I think, get aired and get discussed, and information is presented. So it just seems to make sense to send it to the subcommittee. That's why we have them.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As it goes to the substitute motion and we take a roll call, I'm voting no on it, only because if it were to delay and get more information, absolutely. We're going to refer it to not one, but a joint subcommittee. And I'm wondering, is it going to go into executive session after that? I don't know what's going on. Or we could refer it to the downtown subcommittee because the downtown has the businesses there. I don't know where we're going, but I do know that I have enough information on it. If I had voted, I would have voted to oppose another tax on businesses. They don't pay the same tax as we do. Businesses pay a higher tax, and so I don't want to burden them any more than I have to. So I have enough information. I would have opposed it, so that's where I stand.
Okay. Roll call on the motion.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
No.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
No.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
No.
Motion passes 6 yeas, 3 nays.
Motion's approved.
Mr. Mayor, before we adjourn, I'd like to suspend the rules to ask the council to go on record congratulating the wrestling team at Lowell High for having won the New England Championship.
Okay. Motion to
Motion to
so
suspend the rules.
suspend by Councilor Armin Mercia, seconded by Councilor Ramirez. All those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And hopefully we'll have to do the same thing next week for the basketball teams.
Right,
So.
yeah.
Motion to adjourn by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Armin Mercier. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The meeting is adjourned.